Hello, good evening. It's Jules Wyman here from juleswyman.com. And for those of you who are regular viewers, even if you're watching on the recording, you will be very aware that one of the first things I do is have my eyes shifting all over the place whilst I get a few things sorted out. And one of the things that I wanted to check was around the internet connection, because I've had a bit of a challenge on here. Hello to those of you who are joining already. Do drop down and say hi whilst I'm fiddling. So I am doing this on my phone and doing it through my 4G, hoping that that's going to give a better connection than the internet. So let me just do a quick share, because that's something that I like to do, is I like to share the video, and it's something that you can do too. So I'm just going to put come and join the conversation. Hi Vicky, how are you doing over there in sunny Bradford? Did you get the sunshine today? We did here, which was really lovely here in York. I have to say, I think we've been so spoiled on the with the summer that we've had, that now that there's that chill in the air and the sunshine's not there all day every day. I'm not saying I'm not particularly liking that, I have to say. Kind of thinking maybe I need to move to a sunny country, because I do quite like the sun. I am a bit of a sun fiend. So yes, so the rest of you that are joining live, do as Vicky has done and just drop down and say hi, especially if you are new and you haven't joined us before, because it's lovely to see both new people as well as the regulars such as Vicky, and good evening to you as well, Shally. Because I know that there are a number of people that join every single week religiously, drop in and watch this. So it'd be lovely if you drop in and say hi. And equally, I know that there are a lot of people, because these videos now are getting anywhere between 200 and 600 views every single week. So I know there's a lot of people that watch this on the recording. And if you are one of those people, then do also say hi. Just need to say hi. If you're a bit shy and are not too sure about joining in the full conversation, still join in. You don't need to wait for my permission to say chat away or talk about what's relevant or what's resonated with you. You can do exactly as Vicky is showing. You can type in at any point. Saying she's back home in windy Leeds, although did see a bit of sunshine whilst at work through the window. Yeah, that's kind of where I've experienced most of my sunshine stays, through the window. But yeah, do say hi, join in, invite people as well. Good evening, Caroline. It's lovely to have you here. It's the reason I like it, and the analogy that I use, is that it's about that, as far as I'm concerned, this is like welcoming you into my home. So it's like I've got the door open, and you know, if you're having a party and you're chatting away to somebody, but all of a sudden somebody else comes in, and it's really nice just to be able to go, hi, welcome. And that includes those of you on the recording as well. So if you are watching the recording, do drop down and say hi and join in. Hey, Michelle, at any point at all, then yeah, it'd be lovely to be able to give you a shout out wherever you are. So we've got lots of ladies at the moment. I don't know if there are any gentlemen hiding in the background somewhere, but say hi. It'd be lovely to have you on board. Now, again, all of the things that I'm about to say at this first sort of like housekeeping-y bit at the beginning is around you. This is just as applicable if you are watching on the recording as it is live. Obviously, if it's live, you can do it live, but still do it on the recording as well, because I still get the notifications and the feed through. So if you've got anything that resonates with you or doesn't make sense, then type away, let me know. And that's the whole point of it being a conversation. So it's not just me sitting here spouting away. We can have that conversation. And equally, if something really does resonate with you, then show me some thumbs. And in fact, give us a little practice now and just hit away on those thumbs now, or the heart if you would prefer. And just share those with me this evening so that I know that they're there. Hi, Susan. And it's lovely to be able to see what's going on there. But equally, and if I'm rattling on, there we go, there's some thumbs starting to come in. But if I'm rattling away and something really does resonate, those thumbs and hearts are great for me to know that that's connecting. Equally low, if something doesn't resonate with you, or maybe you don't understand it, or it's too much of a challenge, or even if you really adamantly don't agree with it, which is great, rather than doing a sad face or an angry face, join the conversation. And the main reason I invite that is because if I see a sad face or an angry face, it doesn't give us the opportunity to have a conversation and explore where you're at, because obviously with this one-way dialogue, I'm only describing something in one way. I may use a couple of other different ways. Hey, Christopher, haven't seen you here for a while. It's lovely to have you here, sir. So if you give me some feedback with that, of, that doesn't make sense, or could you explain that some more? I really don't agree, and this is why. Then that's the whole point. This is a conversation. It's if it's a 30-minute slot to give us the opportunity to talk about a particular topic or a particular area that can be something that's of value to you directly, or it may be of value to a colleague or a friend. And as I said right at the beginning, you can share this video or you can tag people in it. Somebody, tagged something the other day. I was like, this is the lady I was talking about. It's always nice to be referred to as a lady. You can tag people in and use it exactly the same as you would do with anything else here on Facebook. Now, I've probably got more notes. I've got like 2 sides of notes on this topic, mainly because it's a much bigger topic. When I kind of like go through things and write things out and come up with ideas and themes and notice what's being spoken about in one-to-one sessions or in meetings with people or whatever it may be, usually I can keep things very succinct, and I aim to keep things very succinct so that these sessions are about planting seeds, trying to spark some ideas for you or thoughts or processes, just to give you that, and for those of you that are join in everybody else and drop down and say hi. Just to give you an opportunity to maybe nudge you in a slightly different, to give you a different perspective, or to, maybe guide you towards thinking about something in a different way, so that can give you potentially some clarity or some insights, or just something to chew over, really. So when I put out there, or I put down as one of the themes, and perfectionism is something that comes up in the various guises that I'm going to share, or some of them I'm going to share with you this evening, is that it is such a broad topic. And I think that very often people assume that when we're talking about perfect, we're talking about the immaculate way someone looks, or the immaculate way that something is presented, or the immaculate way. It's about, I think quite often we see it as being flawless. And I think that's slightly how the word has become translated over time. Whereas I think perfect was more about getting something done. Over time, the word has evolved, and how we tend to use it more in our dialogue in sort of like the 21st century is more around something being flawless, whether that's a person or a thing or an object or whatever it may be. So I had never, this is confession time, I had not ever associated myself as being somebody who fell into that flawless mode, fell into that, I'm not a perfectionist, I'm quite happy to let something slip, or to do something and kind of bodge it and scarper, as we used to say about when I was working in the theatre. And actually, let's use this as a confession time for how many of you, give me a thumbs up or a yes in the comments if you associate yourself as being a perfectionist. So if you're somebody who wants to stay anonymous, then just do a few thumbs up. Or if you're ready to out yourself and be really honest, then just put yes in the comments below. But do you associate yourself as being a perfectionist? Let's start at that point there. Let's have some confessions, as I'm about to confess. No problem, Christopher. You can always catch up on the replay. That's the whole point of them being on the replay. But yeah, let me know, who of you perceives yourself as a perfectionist? Because as I was saying, I didn't class myself as a perfectionist at all, because I wasn't somebody that thought I needed things to be flawless. Whether that was I always think about producers. There's lots of thumbs coming up. Michelle thinks you're a budget and Scarpa. Other view me as a perfectionist. Yes, but not as much as I used to. Nicola's given the thumbs up. Absolutely. Good evening, Nicola. I don't think I've had the opportunity to say hello to you this evening. Well, yeah, and I think that the other thing that matches in with that is around control. And what I hadn't appreciated, because I saw perfection as this immaculate thing, this flawless thing being or thing outside of me, I hadn't recognised that so much of that was about control. And again, I hadn't even seen myself as a control freak, which that is a whole nother conversation, because I don't believe that control freaks exist. But perfectionism, really, if you start to look at the nub of it and where it's coming down to, is when you start drilling down, and this is where I had one of the times I had my light bulb moments around it, was when you start to realise that actually what it's about is, I'm worried about what you're thinking about me. I'm worrying about what other people think about me. Now, if I put it in that way, if we remove the word control and if we remove the word perfection, how many of you, be honest, give me some thumbs or some hearts or comment yes below. How many of you know that you spend time worrying about what other people think about you? Come on, let's have a confession. How many of you think that? There's quite a strong time delay this evening on there's a good 20 odd seconds. That's really interesting. So there might be some pauses for those of you who are watching this on the replay. That's why there's going to be some long pauses. Okay, so there's more thumbs coming in now, and Michelle says yes. Okay, so, and I do recognise that there are some people that might be hiding in the shadows or even busy doing something else that they can't actually get to. Somebody said, oh, I always manage to watch this whilst I'm driving. I was like, oh, really? Don't be watching something like this. Don't be watching and driving. Susan says, yes, but not as much as I used to. So, and it's interesting that Shelley said that as well. I used to, but not as much now. And that's interesting because that shows that there's some shifts going on, which is fantastic. The thing that I love to pose and to invite you to think about is that when we're worrying about what other people think about us, or before I say that, Vicky says, I used to do, but my manager reined me back in and explained it's more about trying your best, and if you don't attain the ultimate, and if you need to ask for help, but I had not to look at myself as I'd failed. Hey, Sam, how lovely to have you here as well. But I had not to look at myself as I'd failed because you were asking for help. You were doing the very best you could. Right, brilliant. Got that. Thank you, Vicky. So, Sam, we're talking about perfection. And more specifically, that when we look at the root of perfection, it's very much linked into worrying about what other people think about you. So I'm asking people to say whether that is what resonates with them. So giving me a thumbs up or commenting yes below if you're somebody that knows that you worry, if you know you are someone that worries about what other people think about you. So one of the things that I explored and am still exploring. I never want you to think of me as somebody who's finished. You know, I am a work in progress just as much as oh my days, yes. That this is something that's still a work in progress for myself. And one of the comments that my coach said to me a number of years ago was around, what's more important, what you think somebody else thinks of you, or what you think of you? What you think somebody else thinks of you, or what you think of you? Because ultimately, I think both of those come down to what you're thinking about you. And when we get caught up in worrying about what we think others are thinking about us, we have to be creating that thought first. We have to be constructing that, how we think about ourselves, and actually that's more important. Does that make sense? Am I making sense here? Sam says, I'm a massive worrier. Caroline says, I'm doing perfection too much, even just to nip to the shop to have to look perfect, makeup. And this is something that, and I think this was something that when I truly got that so much of perfection, thank you for letting me know that's making sense. Oh, there's lots of hearts and thumbs and stuff going up, which is brilliant. When you can get and really understand that this perfectionism, this need to get it right, or this worrying about not being wrong or getting it wrong, or the need to try and be in control, have things flawless, we may word it slightly differently, and then we use these umbrella terms like perfectionism that may not be that we may not resonate with, but actually we're talking about the same thing. When you can get to the root of understanding, or part of the root of understanding, it's because we're worrying about what others think about us. Actually, that can put a different spin on it and give you the opportunity to start to recognize that when you recognize that you have control, or let me change this, you can have an awareness of what you are thinking about that other people think about you, and that is what's impacting you, then that can bring a different spin to it. That can give you the opportunity to start to experience yourself, situation, others, whatever it may be, in a different way. Now, one of the things, and I'll be very surprised if some or all of you, or many of you that are watching this, either now or on the recording, aren't thinking something along the lines of, especially if you're high on the perfection, must get it flawless kind of side of things, is that very often, and there's a particular client of mine that always comes to my mind when I think about this. There's a lady called Donna, who, when we had a conversation around perfectionism, she dug her heels in, and she was very rigid about the fact that she had to get things perfect. And in fact, as I'm thinking this, I've got other clients popping into my head about how many times I've had this conversation over the last 13 years. But one of the things that I ask people to do, especially somebody who's very high on the perfectionist side of things, is to go away and take a photo or capture a moment that's perfect, and what they describe as being perfect, and take it from there. I will let you think about that. I'm not going to give you their answers as to what actually happens for them when they go to do that. But one of the conversations I had with Donna, who had dug her heels in around what perfection is, and how she wants to, things have to be perfect, and she's going to continually strive and work and all of this towards it. Well, she says, I can't let my standards slip. Now, my answer to that was, well, who said anything about your standards slipping? There is nothing wrong with having high standards. My invitation to you is make those standards achievable and do them for you, not to try and please other people, which is what the worrying about what other people think about me is that's what's going on. Now, there's lots of stuff popping up, so I'm just going to have a quick look at this. Susan says, absolutely, makes perfect sense. Susan says, oh, my granddaughter just woke up from her nap. We'll catch the rest later. Oh, bless you. Vicky says, Caroline, your comment made me laugh, as the one time I popped to the shop with no makeup, hair out of control. I saw 5 people I knew really well. But then you see, that whilst we can laugh at that, why do we think that we need to put on a mask? I remember I was on a course years ago up in Scotland, and because of the nature of what it was, the way the course was, and we were working outside, and getting up early and various different things. And I was just like, do you know what? I didn't even bother putting any makeup on. And yet on the very last day, as I was packing everything up, I stood, and I remember the lady I was sharing a room with, I started chuckling, and she's like, what are you laughing at? I said, I've just realised that I'm putting on makeup because I'm going back into what I was describing as the real world, and I feel I need to put a mask back on. I was like, well, that's really interesting that I feel that this is putting makeup on is a mask. But I do think that the conversation could go much deeper if we had time to look at how the external world describes perfection, and so many from an image perspective. You know, we're looking at photoshopped images of people who don't even exist. You know, the common quoted thing is Claudia Schiffer said, I don't even look like Claudia Schiffer, because she knew how much it was all being photoshopped, etc., and how much hair, makeup, and what everybody was doing. But as I say, that's a different conversation that we can have at another time if you would like to. So, but it's interesting because as much as we can laugh about what both Caroline and Vicky are saying there, it's important to recognise that last bit that you put, Vicky, around. I saw 5 people I knew really well. Well, what does that matter? You know, why we don't comment on whether a man's got any makeup on, and whether he's done his hair or not. Yet as women, we put that pressure on ourselves, and this must look flawless all the time. Well, actually, whilst that may be coming from an external perspective, as in through the media images, we don't have to buy into that if we don't want to. And I know this may sound a little bit odd. Well, I thought it sounded odd when I said it out loud to a friend of mine. Is I had this thing about my hair had to look perfect all the time. And like at the moment, it needs a really darn good cut because it's getting very big. And I tied my hair back for work one day, and I was like, my God, how lazy. Everyone's going to think I'm really lazy because I've tied my hair back. So where did I make that as a rule? That to be the perfect coach, I had to have my hair immaculate. How is my immaculate hair going to impact how I am as a coach and how I'm showing up? And I think we really need to start looking and challenging ourselves and questioning ourselves with some of these beliefs and these descriptions that we have around all of this sort of stuff. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. And Caroline says, yes, always the case with her. But I am all said and done. They accepted this about me, and we all laughed. Therefore, no one was bothered about what you look like. You're still the person on the inside. Absolutely. Sam says, I was told at college by the college tutor that I was a perfectionist, and it stuck with me. I think that's meant to be I end overthinking. There's lots of thumbs coming up now. I end overthinking most things to the point it becomes exhausting and I give up. Yeah, I end up overthinking. I get that, Sam, and that's where we have to start. There's loads of thumbs coming in of people agreeing. We have to start taking responsibility for ourselves. It's very, very easy to blame the external world and say, well, it's the media's fault because of the photoshopped images, or it's the pressure of exams, or it's the parent maybe that did this, or the partner that did that. It's very easy to blame the external world, but in actual fact, we need to start taking responsibility for ourselves where this is concerned. And if that's something that you know that you do, starting to draw a line in the sand once you've made a decision, or, there is no reason to be overthinking this anymore. I'm done. There is no more thinking required. This is where I'm at with it. Then that's where things can shift. And for example, going back to what I was saying with Donna and the offering of high standards, and offering that back of when I talk about letting go of perfection is not about dropping your standards. It's still about having high standards. But the key is make those standards achievable. Make them achievable. So when you've got that overthinking going in, that's something that you could start to think about there, Sam. Let me know if that makes sense. I love the fact that Caroline and Victoria are having a conversation between the two of themselves, which is brilliant. I went to Berlin in May, and most women there had natural/no makeup, and it was refreshing to not feel the pressure to wear makeup, and that's great. But it is about recognizing, Sam, that we if we're using that external world as a reference point, then we're letting the external world guide us rather than making a decision for ourselves. So I've got a friend, for example, who always wears really lovely eyeshadow and really lovely makeup, and I found myself quite often looking and longingly going, I wish I could do that. And so I started to try and do that. But very often my eyelids don't really like eyeshadow, and they start getting itchy, and then it will just be down here at various points of the day. And I was just like, do you know what? I'm just going to make I like wearing a little bit of makeup, but I like it looking fairly natural. So I'm just going to make it as easy for myself as possible. So I'm going to have that standard, but I'm going to make it achievable. And if that's without the eyeshadow, then that's without the eyeshadow. Does that make sense? We have to start making these rules for ourselves, not just relying on the external world, because otherwise, who's in control? If you're a control addict, then you're giving away your control. Anyway, that's a different topic, and there's lots of comments coming in, so I'm trying to keep on top of the conversation here. Yes, it's a master tool, so true. I have anxiety maybe caused by perfectionist. It's too much work. Trying to reduce it, but it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. Sam, your hairdresser. I've just spotted that. Sam, your hairdresser. I know I need to get myself booked in. Get my mop sorted out. So basically, Caroline, this isn't easy. This is something that needs to be worked on. This is something that we need to take responsibility for ourselves. We need to stop blaming ourselves over, but we need to recognise that we have the opportunity of changing this. If you put it out to the external world and blame the external world because mum and dad were like this and therefore it made me this way, or it's because the external world has this idea of how women should be, or men even, whatever. I'm saying women because there's a majority of women on here at the moment. So the more that we can recognise that, the more that we can be aware of that, then we get to take the opportunity with that. And therefore, it was Caroline, wasn't it? Yeah. So then Caroline, yeah, I totally agree with you. It's not easy because this is stuff that's embedded. But there is possibility of being able to do it step by step. Of course, I'm going to say work with a coach. If it's not me, somebody else, but do that to give yourself the opportunity to keep things on board. And fingers crossed, if things go to plan by the end of this year, I will have something rather special to launch in January. I had intended on launching it this year, but with everything that's gone on health-wise for me, it's meant that the timelines on things for the business have kind of shifted. So I'm hoping that this time, well, definitely by this time next year, but beginning of next year, we'll have something to launch which can help you dive a bit deeper, but in a different way. Anyway, I'm waffling because I got excited about something there. Hi, Michelle. There's lots of people joining. Do say hi, those of you who are joining. It's fantastic to have you here, both live and on the recording as well. Sam says, making perfect sense. Thank you. I love that. I don't need to think about this anymore. I'm done. I don't need to. I've done all the funking I need. I'm funked out. Done. Just draw a line. And one of the things that you can do with that is go and give something else. Move away from whatever you were overthinking and go and give something else your attention. And what can work really well with that is something very fiddly and manual. So, for example, sewing came into my head because you've kind of got to think about that to a certain degree. Or of course, now mindful colouring, things like that. When you've got to pay attention to something else, and any time you notice that your brain goes into that overthinking again, just take a deep breath and come back to your sewing or your colouring or your gardening or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, but usually something manual, something physical is very helpful to do at that moment in time, just to give your attention to something else. You're welcome, Sam. Happy to do a haircut in exchange. I don't even know where you are in the country. I'm asking for that, and could be ended up that I'm going out to Mongolia. Caroline says natural beauty is the best. And do you know what I find fascinating with that is that some of the people that would be classed as not fitting into a stereotype, male or female or otherwise, that actually they tend to be people who have, and what I'm thinking of at this moment in time is when I've travelled and I've been in places like Peru or Cambodia or India, and I will see people who have just got the biggest smile, probably very few teeth, but there is such a gentleness in their eyes. There's such a happiness, I suppose, for where they're at in life, that they don't fit the perfect image of what somebody should look like to be classed as beautiful. But this beauty really radiates from their faces, and their skin they haven't got anti-wrinkle cream, they haven't got makeup, they haven't got straighteners, or they haven't been down to the local stores and got the local trend, or the trend, well, not even local trends anymore, are they really? But you know what I mean, right? Their being, and that beauty just radiates out, and I think that's so important. That natural beauty is there. Vicky says, definitely, it's all about making standards achievable. Well said, my pleasure. Although I do think age helps, as I wish I could speak to my younger self now. So, one of the things I will say about this is that very often people say, oh, it's much easier as I've got older, things have got easier. Equally, I'll have people say, as I've got older, it's got harder. So it may be right for you that as you've got older, things have got easier. And very often, I've got a client who's just turned 20, and I was talking to her last week, and I was saying, look, you won't understand until you reach my age that the information that you've got now, you apply it, the difference that it can make for you. I was like, if I could go back to 20 and have the even 30, to be honest, and have the information that I have now back then, wow, the difference that it would have made for my life, amazing. And I think that's the thing, is it would be great to go back to our younger selves. However, we've had to go through what we've had to go through to get where we are now, which is why we can say that we would say that to our younger self, if that makes sense at all. So I can understand why you're saying that, Vicky. Sam says, this is so useful. Jules, Sam says she's in York. I found that since I've been trying to be more mindful around image, I'm totally attracted to people as a whole. Radiating beauty, definitely. Greetings from Washington. Hello, my lovely. How are you doing? I want to offer you a couple of things. I'm running over time, but that's okay, I think. You'll probably hear the bells and everything going outside as the Ghost Walk starts his journey. So if you hear screams and things, don't worry, it's fine. It's just the Ghost Walk guy. So one of the things I wanted to... There we go, there's the bell. So one of the things I wanted to offer for you to start thinking about is... what impact is that perfectionism having on your life? Now, as I've already said, you may not word it as perfectionism. It may be that it's that worrying about what other people think, or the control, or the need to be right, or the fear of being wrong, or whatever it may be. I want you to think about, or my invitation to you is to think about just the magnitude of what that impact is having on you. And first and foremost, think about what it's having on you. Secondly, think about how what impact is that having on those closest to you. So it might be your family, it might be your friends, it might be your intimate partner, whatever it may be. Then I want you to expand that out to any relationships that you have, and start thinking about it from a work perspective as well. Now, Vicky, you already said that when you've had this conversation with your manager about perfection, they gave you, go, look, as long as you're always doing your best, that's all I'm asking for. So I think that's a recognition of value of where people are at with that. But then you want to start thinking about things such as your wealth, your health, your career, your goals, whatever it may be, your confidence, of course. How is that impacting on you, and what's that creating in your life? Because I know that for myself, I didn't, as I say at the beginning, I did not resonate with the word perfection. I would never have classed myself as a perfectionist. I didn't really even see myself as somebody who was controlling, or as many people frame it up, as a control freak. But when I became aware really of the behaviours of what was going on, I started to notice how that would then show up. So it would be like defensiveness, or I'd avoid situations or missed opportunities. It caused breakdown in communications in relationships. And one of the breakthroughs I had was when it was an ex-boyfriend actually, whose mum had bought him a book called Too Perfect, When Being in Control Gets Out of Control. Can't remember who wrote it. Just remember it having a black cover and it's saying Too Perfect. It's an American book on the front, and his mum, as I say, had given him the book, and he was like, I don't know why she's given me this, and threw it to one side. And I picked it up, and very close to the front there, like I think it's 22 questions to work out whether you are a perfectionist. And I remember going through it going, well, I'm not really a perfectionist. And I think I scored something like 10 or 12 out of those 22 questions. And I then got into conversation with him about it, and he kind of snatched the book off it and went through, and he scored 21. So we kind of had quite an interesting conversation around that. But it was very interesting to see how much we can ignore it for ourselves, and then ignore the impact that has on our relationships, our lives, etc., etc. I've missed a few comments here, but it wouldn't change your life, as we all have to learn and make mistakes through life. Yeah, exactly, Vicky. That's why I wouldn't go back and change anything. It would just be nice to go back and relive some things from a different perspective sometimes. Yes, Michelle, I have painted. The office has had a bit of a refresh. Caroline says, good advice. Ewan, hello, sir. How are you? Long time since I've seen you. I always assumed that we judge others by the standards we adhere to, a reflection of a time when we were judged. We shouldn't let others undermine... I've lost it now. We shouldn't let others undermine our perfection of ourselves, and we shouldn't feel like we have to the same with others. Lots of contributing factors to cement the wrong ideology. Actions should speak louder than words, louder in society. It is, and I think it's very important for us to recognise that perception always comes from us. You know, regardless of what somebody projects onto us, it's up to us whether we take that on board, basically. So it's about being mindful around that for yourself. Michelle says, sometimes feel frazzled by wanting to do too much. And I think that's an important thing. You know, one of the conversations that happens very frequently is about burnout, and how people get burnt out, and how much they feel that they need to achieve. And especially in this world that we live in at the moment, you know, I've got to be on social media, and I've got to be on that page, and I've got to have answered that, and I've got to have this done, and I've got to know what's going on over there, and I've got to have watched this, and I've got to have this whoa, it's just like an overload. So I think that sometimes, and that's aside from the other perfections that we set ourselves, or the other things that we like, I have to do this, I need to get that done, I should have done this by now, blah 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 blah. In absolute frank honesty, my health challenges that I've had to face this year has made me see so much of this from a very different perspective, and has made me, that's why timelines have shifted, and I've just gone, do you know what, my standards are achievable, they're high and they're achievable, and that must mean that at times things need to shift. Those timelines need to shift. I need to be gentle, kind and caring with myself, just as much as I echo that out to other people as well. Caroline says, I've took notes on your advice, Jules. Thanks. You are more than welcome, my lovely. I have gone 10 minutes over the schedule of what I would normally do. And there is still so much more that I could talk about where perfection is concerned, where that spirals out from, worrying about what other people think about you, control, having those high standards. There are so many things. But as I say, what I wanted to do is give you a flavour, to give you an overview, so that hopefully this evening has planted some seeds for you, to give you the opportunity to just start thinking about things in a slightly different way. Even if your first step is, you know, putting your hand up for yourself and kind of looking yourself in the mirror and saying, yeah, do you know what? My name's Jules, and I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Actually, or I've got issues around control, or whatever it may be. I worry too much, or I worry about what other people think about me. Doesn't matter what it is. That might be your first step, is honesty. It might be making your standards achievable, or any of the other seeds that I've planted throughout this conversation this evening. And I feel like I have just been very, very fast, because there is so much to talk about. Thank you so much. Vicky says, thank you, Jules. Great chat as always. My pleasure, my darling. Shirley says, bye. Look forward to next Monday. Me too. I think it's an open forum next Monday, so you get to ask whatever you want. If you've never joined us for an open forum, you've got a week to think about whatever question that you want to ask, be it to do with anything that we've spoken about this evening, or it could be specifically on perfection, control, confidence, anxiety, fear. I'm trying to think of all the different things that come up. There are so many different things that come up. Stress, setting goals, whatever it may be, whatever your questions are, you can either direct message me on here with them before the session, or you could send them to me. Sam, let me know what hair salon you work at, by the way. Or you can email them to me. I lost my train of thought then. Jules@juleswyman.com. Or if you want, just keep a note of them throughout the week, all your questions that pop up, and just type them in live. You might want to type them into your phone, and then you can just copy and paste them beforehand. But give yourself some time. It's an open forum. Any question at all. I don't guarantee that I have the answers, not by any stretch of the imagination. But if it means that we can start a conversation and see where that conversation goes, then please do bring those questions to the table. As I say pretty much every time, I think, don't ask ones on sport, because I'm not that hot on sport these days. Couldn't tell you who's won what, when, and how many times. So, okay, Sam, thank you. Yeah, be fantastic to have your company next week, whether that is live or whether that's on the recording. And obviously, if you're watching this and you're somebody who does tend to listen on the recordings, then send your question in beforehand. I'll still answer it. I don't even have to name you if you'd rather not. I can just use your first name. But yeah, it would be fantastic to have you on board. So join us all next week. For those of you who are watching live, thank you so much for your interaction and joining in today from around the world. For those of you over on the other side of the pond, for those of you in the UK and around the country, for those of you who are in the other direction as well, thank you so much for being here and interacting this evening. And I look forward to seeing you for the open forum next week. So in the meantime, take care of yourselves. Bye now.